lovelies, how's it going? So I'm honestly really excited about today's video. ENMY have very kindly reached out and sent me a beautiful set of 80 acrylic markers to test out. And this is actually the first time that I've ever been sent anything on this channel, so they're really taking a chance, but hopefully I can do them justice today. And make sure to stick around till the end because we are actually going to be doing a giveaway, but more on that later. First, I really want to test how these do on lots of different materials, including a canvas, as the spring themed birds behind me are starting to look a little bit out of place now that we are in September. But I really want to get a feel for these pens first, so let's see what they can do. Okay, so let's open these up. Oh my gosh. My overhead camera doesn't go high up enough to show you all of these. I'll show you one section at a time. We've got this lot and we've got this lot. Wow. So it looks like these come with a swatch card and numbers which you can stick on the pens, but there are honestly so many pens here. I think that would actually take me a few hours to do. So I think I'm just going to trust that the lids are pretty accurate to the paint, but I might just test a few of them on this piece of card to see how they do on this surface and also against this grey-green colour to see if the colours pop. I've also got these items which I'm going to test them on. We've got a wooden peg, a stone, a glass jar with a metal lid, a little 3D printed cat that my husband very kindly printed out for me. If you happen to be a tech wizard or you know one that's got a 3D printer, you can find this design online. I'll pop a link down below. And then I'm also going to test them on clay. So this was actually a keychain that I made for my daughter's friend, which sadly got stomped on at school and it lost its ear and its tail. So these are made out of air dry clay mixed with Mod Podge because I thought that might just help stick them on a bit better. We've got almost every kind of surface here, but let's start off with the card swatches. So I think I'll just test about 10 colours. Okay, it does say to shake them first. Oh, I've just noticed these have the numbers on the lids anyway. You only need to put the stickers on the side if you really want to see what the numbers are in the box. So they do make a bit of a noise when you shake them, but not as much as a Posca. Let's start off with black and white. So they've got a brush nib, so you don't need to like pump them like you do with the Poscas. Let's see how they get on. Ooh, okay. Yeah, that looks really opaque actually. Let's do it a bit bigger so you can actually see it. And that's only the first coat. Wow, that's really standing out. Okay, so I think that's a pretty good sample size. And it looks like the colours do actually match the lids really well if I just put them around. But even just with the one coat, they are really opaque. And you don't have to do a whole load to activate them. You don't have to press down really hard. The paint just flows really consistently. So far, so good. Okay, let's warm up with the rock. It is quite a dark colour, so it'll be interesting to see how they get on. I think ideally you would want to prime this with some white paint, but we are really putting these to the test. I'm thinking of turning this into a cinnamon roll, and I would say the right colour for that is maybe this one for the pastry. Okay, that is going on pretty thick. Might need 2 coats at most, but I mean, this isn't bad. Okay, I'm gonna leave this first coat to dry and move on to the next thing, the wooden peg. I'm thinking of actually taking this apart because I think it's gonna be a bit easier, but I'm low-key a bit scared in case it's gonna like attack me if I try and take it apart. They can be quite aggressive, pegs. Okay, that was fine. It wasn't as bad as I thought it would be. So last week I got myself these flowers, which you guys told me are actually called chrysanthemums. Am I saying that right? Or you can call them mums for short. So I think I'm going to try and paint some tiny little flowers onto this, but we need a good base colour first. I might actually go with this kind of dark maroon because I want it to be kind of autumnal and cozy. Okay, so the wood is definitely like, it's the only way to describe it. I reckon these pens would actually be super helpful for like little retouches. Instead of throwing something away, you could just fix it up with one of these, with some of these pens. I might actually do the other side a different colour just because we can. And also because I've got some cream coloured chrysanthemums outside. Okay, so that is the first coat done on these. The wood is incredibly absorbent. It would definitely be worth priming it in some way, even just Mod Podging it first. But I'm going to let that properly dry before I work on the designs. Okay, next, let's see if we can fix up Callie. So these are probably the two closest colours. Let's just do a little swatch first. Okay, so that's actually quite a reddish brown. I've almost actually kind of used a slightly greenish brown. Perhaps if I did a green base coat, don't know. Can you blend? Should we see? Let's see. If we use a bit of green, that might work. Let's try it. Well, Callie looks very strange with a Shrek tail, but I've got to say, this is a lot easier for painting keychains than using a paintbrush. Maybe a stronger green. Yeah. I think so. I think we are getting a bit closer with that colour, but they do actually mix really well as long as you don't let them dry out first. So I'm going to see how that dries and again come back to that one. In the meantime, let's make a start on Loaf Cat and let's see how they get on with plastic. Okay, so this one is going to be a bit more fiddly, but actually the shape of the nib is ideal for this and you don't have to keep reloading your paintbrush. It seems quite happy on this plastic. Let's go with the darker colour. I do kind of wish this was a keychain because I would love this as a keychain, but it can go on my shelf. I think I might make it a calico cat. Okay, so that's the first layer of the bread done. And that might not even need a second coat. I think because it's on white, those colours are really popping that bit more. So I'm going to let that dry and I'll again come back to that one. Now on to the jar. I'm thinking of starting off with the lid, but this is metal. Let's see if we can just cover up this. Wow, this has got a little bit of that green paint in there from when I was blending on the cat's tail, but that is going on really solid. You literally cannot see that writing at all. That is crazy. Right, let's put that to one side to dry and work on the glass. I have used acrylic markers on glass before. This was Posca's and that was Sharpies. I didn't actually treat this in any way to lock those paints on there, but a few of you have very kindly reached out in the comments and told me that you can either bake it in the oven or you could use some kind of Mod Podge or glaze, so I might try that today. But something that you do have to bear in mind is if you're using this to eat or drink out of, it does need to be food safe. But I'm not actually going to use this one for food anyway. I'm just going to use it for trinkets. So I'm thinking a nice autumnal design, perhaps with pumpkins and acorns and leaves. So I've got a nice selection of autumnal colours. Let's see how they do on glass. Okay, I'm just going to wing it because I actually don't want to spend too long on these items because I'm going to be doing a final piece, which is going to need lots of time. I did kind of forget how hard it is to draw on glass. Okay, I would say that these are actually going on at about the same opacity as the Posca's. Definitely more opaque than the Sharpies. But something that happened with the Posca's was when I tried to go back over them for a second coat, the nibs were so scratchy that it was actually scratching the first coat off, which one of you guys actually told me you could pop a layer of Mod Podge and then go over for the second coat. But let's see how these do with a second coat straight on there, because I've changed my mind about this colour green. I'm going to go a little bit lighter on this acorn. Okay, so it seems that it is not removing itself from the surface of the glass because the nib is really soft. So now I'm going to carry on working back into all of these, but it's probably going to take some time, so let's make that a musical time lapse. So all of the items are finished and dry. I think that the paper swatch did really well. This is only one coat, and against the green grey, it does pop really well. I think we've got Callie pretty much looking back to how she was originally. She isn't quite as pristine. She does still have some damage in places. I couldn't find the exact shade of brown that I needed, as they all seem to be more on the red and orange side. But that was an easy fix by just mixing it with some green. It did do really well on the plastic as well. The way that the 3D printer works, it does kind of have some texture to it, but that's almost disappeared with a few coats of the acrylic markers, and they have done pretty well with the fine details too. That was perhaps a little bit more fiddly than if I was using a very fine Posca, because you have to use the very point of the nib, much like you would with a paintbrush, where you can press quite hard with a Posca. It's not impossible to do fine detail, it just takes some practice and technique. But I absolutely love this little loaf cat. This one's definitely making it to the shelf. Then we had the wooden peg. I actually really love this. I feel like you could do this with a whole set of them and it would look really quirky and unique. Then there was the cinnamon roll rock. Again, this is definitely going on the autumnal shelf. And I actually put a little bit of pumpkin spice fragrance oil on this. So it actually smells of cinnamon. Did I actually just sniff a rock on YouTube? But I think I've invented something. You could paint a picture of whatever your favourite fragrance is. If you love lavender, paint lavender on there. Fragrance rock. Then we had the glass jar. This was extra fiddly to do the fine details because of the curved surface. But the opacity came out really nicely and they almost look like little stickers stuck to it. I did use that gloss Mod Podge over everything. I perhaps should have only put it over the actual designs because I don't know if you can see it on here, but there is a slight streakiness of brush strokes. But from a distance, you wouldn't notice. And if it saves that from happening to it, then it's definitely worth it. Okay, so that's all of the mini tester projects done. Now on to the final piece, the canvas and two brand new characters. As I'm sure you have noticed, Kitty Corn has been a part of the channel for quite a while now, but she was actually an animation that I licensed, which means that anyone who buys the license can use the same intro. That was fine at the start of the channel when I was just finding my feet, but now I think I'm definitely at a stage where I need to create some channel mascots that I can truly call my own. Ones that capture the vibe of the channel even more. I will have to figure out how to animate them at some point, but that's a challenge for another day. This week is just about designing them on this canvas with these pens. Now, I have actually already done some prep work on this canvas. That was the back. I did already have an idea in mind, so I started off by trying to sketch that out onto my tablet. Since cats are my favourite animal, I did want to stick with a cat in a similar kawaii style and recognisable colour palette. But this one is a grey tabby cat, and she has paint paws. By that I mean her paws actually make paint. The colours do change depending on her mood, but most of the time, of course, they are pastels. She also has a tiny duck companion called Pumpkin, and whenever she does something silly, Pumpkin goes. So to set the scene, she has just battered over my cup of tea, which of course Pumpkin found very amusing. They are sat on my desk with the pink wall, a plant and a jar of paintbrushes behind them. It did take a lot of adjusting as I just learnt about tangents, which is when one line kind of intersects another awkwardly, and I was just finding there was tangents everywhere. I'll perhaps go into more detail about that in another video. But finally, I settled on this design. Next, I primed the canvas with the same paint that we used on the wall, which is called Kitten Kisses, by the way, if you ever want to get it from B&Q. Then I used a projector to scale up the drawing. Now, I know that some of you might consider that cheating, but I think that if you have done all of the initial work on the composition yourself, it's kind of a waste of time to do it all again. And I know that if I tried to do this by eye, it would have taken hours longer. The proportions would have been all askew, and all of the erasing would have left horrible graphite smudges all over that lovely fresh pink paint. I don't know, what do you think? Do you think it's cheating? Finally, I added some white gesso just on the white areas, just so that I don't use up so much of that white pen. Now, you may have noticed that I haven't actually decided on a name for this character. I have had some ideas. I kind of really want a really traditional human name that you almost wouldn't expect for a kawaii cat. Some ideas that I've had are Enid, Susan, Guinevere, Agatha, but it's still undecided. So if you have any ideas, do let me know in the comments and I might put a poll up to decide her final name. So let's see how these pens do on canvas. Okay, I'm not actually too sure how to do this because this canvas is massive. Let's start off with Pumpkin. It is going on pretty opaque, but it has got that pink to fight against, so it's probably gonna need 2 coats. What I do love about these as well is how quickly they dry. When I was painting the rock, I just gave it a quick blast with the hairdryer and I could see it just drying instantly, which as a creator would be an absolute game changer, because sometimes you've got quite a limited time in the week to get quite a lot of art done, and these would just speed up the process. And it's great how you can vary the thickness just depending on the angle of the brush. Pumpkin is pulling quite a funny face because he is mid-quack. So he is actually a grown-up duck, but he was very different to his siblings. He kind of stayed in that kind of chick form and also had these random green leaf feather things sticking out of his head, which is why he was adopted by this cat. I was gonna just pick Enid, but then Elle reminded me that one of the main characters from Wednesday is called Enid, and I was like, oh yeah, and her thing is kind of rainbows. I've got a really bad eye twitch. I'm trying to say something to you guys and it's just like, this is probably gonna take a few hours to finish, so let's make that another musical time lapse. Okay, so we are all done. Ta-da! I reckon it did take about 4 hours to add colour to this. Some colours needed 2 coats, some colours needed 3. It did take quite a while to colour in like large blocks of colour, and I did have to mix some of those colours as well. But I did find that using a paintbrush and a little bit of water did actually help a lot with the mixing. I think the colours have ended up pretty close to the digital drawing. But of course, you do have access to like thousands of colours when you're drawing on a tablet. But yeah, I'm really pleased with that. I'm gonna pop this on the easel now. I feel like it would be better the other side. I don't know, maybe it was better before, but it'll do. Also, as I mentioned at the start of the video, ENMY have kindly offered to send a set of these markers to one of you guys. So if you would like the chance to win 80 markers like these, then just drop a cat emoji in the comments so that I know that you'd like to be included. The giveaway is open to most countries worldwide, and you can find more detailed giveaway info in the description. Also, if you would like to grab yourself a guaranteed set of these, just use the code EMMA at the checkout for 15% off. I would also love to hear your name suggestions for this cat, Something and Pumpkin. If you've enjoyed today's video, please don't forget to hit all of those buttons, and I shall see you next week. Bye! Oh, sorry, I just apologised to an easel. See ya!